welcome to another episode of Coffee with Developers. Today with Anna McDougall. She is an engineer at Axel Springer in Germany. She is a opera singer turned engineer. She's an Australian living in Germany, and she is the author of the book You Belong in Tech. Welcome, Anna. How are you?
Hi, Marc. I'm really happy to be here. Yeah, just small corrections. Axel Springer, National Media and Tech, GmbH and Co. KG is the full company name.
Wow.
If someone wants it, I know. I have to know it apparently, but yes, it's much easier if you just say Axel Springer. So that's me. Hi. Yes, I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be talking to you again.
Yeah, cool. So tell us, what do you do at Axel Springer? La la la.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, Axel Springer is good. Yeah, so I'm a director of product and engineering, and my in brackets is projects and organization. So I'm one of 7 directors of the engineering and product section. National Media and Tech is like the tech branch of Axel Springer as a whole. Axel Springer is Europe's largest publisher. So they publish mostly news services. Yeah. So for example, our German websites have literally millions of unique users, I should say, every single day. So we obviously have a lot of tech stuff to work on, not just the websites, but AI, machine learning models, apps, of course. We also do a lot of innovation stuff around natural language processing. So as a result, my job is to know basically everything that we do, both from a top-down approach. So as one of management, I need to know everything that we're doing project-wise, but also to understand on a more, I suppose, bottom-up level, what is happening, like what tech stacks are we using, what products are we using, how do our teams work, and then my job is basically to go and talk about it a lot. So for example, by doing interviews like this, but also helping our engineers feel able to, I suppose, be supported both in terms of their careers and in terms of gaining public speaking skills themselves. And then on top of that, I'm responsible for diversity and inclusion initiatives for all of our product and tech staff. So, just a few things.
Wow, that sounds very versatile, but actually very interesting. Cool.
It's pretty cool, yeah.
Yeah. You've been, this is a relatively new position you're in, right?
Yeah, I started in May 2022.
Oh, yeah, cool. So, yeah, pretty fresh still. Fresh. Nice. All right, so before we get to the topic at hand, which is how to level up as a junior developer, I would like to get a little bit behind your story, because I find it very interesting. You used to be an opera singer, and now you are an engineer. First, what can I imagine as opera singer? Would you be like every other day at like events, at like giving like at functions, or how can I imagine that?
What is the life of an opera singer? So I was very lucky. I had a full-time position at a German opera house. So I was a full-time in the chorus, which basically means like if you go to see an opera and there are like village people who are like chanting, or like there are the soldiers in a war scene or something like that, that's the chorus. So we do all the big kind of group singing scenes. But I also did a few minor solo roles as part of my time. This was at Hessen State Theatre, so it's over in Frankfurt area of Germany. And I suppose the average day would probably involve 1 to 2 rehearsals of about 3 hours each. And then at nighttime, of course, you would be on stage most nights of the week. I was maybe half the nights of the week you'd be on stage. So that would, of course, include getting there early, putting on the costume. Yeah. You normally would do your own makeup, but other people would do your hair. Everything that comes with a life on the stage. Singing, obviously, at an extremely high level. Opera is a very high and old art form. It takes a lot of dedication to learn, but also, of course, acting, singing, a lot of teamwork, a lot of trust, and a lot of memorization, I would say, was also involved.
Yeah, wow, that sounds interesting and a little bit stressful at the same time.
Yes. The job itself was not so stressful. The audition process is very stressful because you're expected to go and like pour your heart out, and everyone's just like, all right, next. And
Yeah, because they hear
tough.
like from a lot of people. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah.
What made you want to switch? First, what made you want to switch to another career, and what made you choose engineering? It's a strange upgrade.
It is a very strange upgrade. Full disclosure, I wasn't coming from zero. I had actually learned HTML when I was an 8-year-old, so in the 90s, in the mid 90s. Okay. And I'd made like little websites as a teenager. I'd done a little bit of Visual Basic in high school. So I had some exposure to code at an early age, but it never really went beyond that. Like it kind of stayed as a teenage thing. But when my first child was born, I was, pregnant. I knew I had to move away from the theater where I was working because my husband lived on the other side of the country. So I knew I would have to move to where he and his permanent job were. And I had to kind of think, okay, we're two foreigners living in Germany, no family here to help us with a baby. How are we going to make it work if we're both working nights and holidays and weekends? How are we literally going to care for a child? It's not going to work. On top of that, I had been thinking for a long time about wanting to do something a little bit more intellectually driven, so something where I could really use my brain, and also, funnily enough, given the topic we're talking about today, somewhere where I could shoot my shot, where I could be ambitious, where I could actually try to continue to challenge myself in new ways. That's something that's very important to me. And with opera, what I was getting the feeling was like, yes, I love it. Yes, I'm good at it. But this is kind of the job for the rest of my life. Like there's no senior opera singer, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was kind of the other thing driving me. I was like, okay, I'm ready for a change. I want to do something more intellectual. My life circumstances are lending themselves to a change as well. What should I do? And I kind of came back in my mind to this time when I was a teenager and this hobby I had, and I knew that software engineers were in high demand. And so I kind of put 2 and 2 together and said, okay, let's try it and just see how it goes. And yeah, luckily turns out I'm a really good programmer. So I kind of found what I was good at, and like a light bulb went off, and it was just, I knew straight away, like within a month or two of starting to code again, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then not only were you coding, you also wrote actually a book.
You Belong in Tech.
Yeah, You Belong in Tech, how to go from zero programming knowledge to hired. This is very, I admire people that can write books, because I'm not sure if I could. Is this your first time writing a book?
Writing a book, yes. This is my first time. So my actual undergraduate degree was not in music. Music was something I came to in my mid-20s. So my undergraduate degree was actually in journalism and media and communications. So I had a lot of writing experience when I was a little girl. I really wanted to be a writer. So writing is actually something that I find very easy. And luckily I'm quite fast at it. But I don't think I actually ever really believed I would finish the book. I kind of announced I was going to write it. I did this Kickstarter campaign to get a little bit of funding to get started, to find an editor. And in that process, I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to try to get this done. But I think inside I was like, you'll probably never finish it, Anna. Like, come on. But somehow I did it. So that was really fun. And the reason I wrote it is because, as you know, I'm very active on Twitter, and I had been tweeting about my own career journey and getting a lot of the same questions over and over again, like what programming language should I learn? How do I best promote myself for my first job? What should a portfolio include? You know, all these kinds of questions, or like, how do I prepare for an interview? And I just thought, like, rather than addressing people one by one, why don't I write a book, and then people can just have all the answers in one place, and make it a lot easier for themselves and for me, so I don't have to repeat myself a lot as well. So yeah, that was basically the reason.
Wow. And how long did it take you to write a book?
Yeah, good question. I think I started in November 2021 and it was published in July 2022. So about 6 months to write the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
Although admittedly, I think I actually wrote it in about 4 months, but then the editing process and like, you know, I had to go through it a lot of times and rejig things so that the structure made sense. That took about 2 months. And then of course, creating all them, getting the designs made and submitting everything. And yeah, so in the end, it took about, let's see, 9 months in total from like starting to write it to the publishing date. So a while.
Wow, that's actually very inspiring. So what you wanted to talk today is about leveling up from a junior developer to mid level developer. And
Yes.
can you tell us a little bit, what is the difference between a mid-level and a junior, or a mid-level and a senior? What are the differences that you noticed?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked this. One of the things I've been working on in my job at the moment is what we call the technical expert track. So that's like it's like a career matrix, like how people progress, what we expect of each different level for our technical staff. So it's something I've been working on very closely. It's something I'm very passionate about. For me, the biggest differences, let me talk about juniors and seniors, and then hopefully it makes sense when I talk about mid-level. For me, a junior is someone who very little is expected of them. Really what you're looking at more is potential and communication. So what you want to know is this person actually going to tell you when they have a problem? Like, are they actually going to come to you? Are they a team player? Are they someone who is going to contribute their opinion and ask for other people's opinions when they get stuck? Like, are they open to learning, basically? And then, of course, you're also looking at things like potential. So how quickly are they learning new concepts, right? I think very few people have high expectations, or should have high expectations, of what juniors can actually accomplish in their first, like, let's say 1 to 2 years in a company. I would say the expectation is more around how they're going to be able to communicate their problems and if they've got the right attitude to those problems. If we then switch to senior, right, we just go to the other end of this triad, then you've got someone who should be in a good position to be making decisions for the team, right? This person should be in a position where they are so comfortable with the technology and with the structure and the architecture of the code base in which they are working that they can make those decisions and that they can answer very easily the questions that juniors and mid-levels might have about how things work and why they work that way. So what we're expecting there is not just the ability to code, it's the ability to kind of guide others through code, but also to be able to like take it one level up and be actually able to see the whole landscape of that software architecture and be able to engage with that in a meaningful way. So that's what I would expect then from a senior, right? So yeah, of course, what comes in between that is, of course, the mid-level. And to me, a mid-level engineer is someone who is confident in their own programming ability. Maybe they don't feel as confident about bigger questions around DevOps or architecture or something like that, but they at least understand the terminology and the basic structures that they should be using in that sense. They should be able to spot when problems or conflicts will be coming up in code. So for example, during the planning phase, if we're using typical Scrum events, during the planning phase, they should be able to say, oh, hang on, I'm not sure we would be able to do this feature in this way because we're already doing this other thing in this other different way that might conflict. So they should be able to spot these things earlier. Whereas with a junior, for example, I wouldn't expect them to see that stuff before they're actually working on that ticket. You would expect them to go into the ticket and start doing it and then get stuck and be like, oh, why am I getting stuck? What's going on? And then to kind of figure out then that there's a conflict. But with a mid-level, you would expect them to see it in advance. And of course, anyone above junior level, I expect to be helping juniors to get through their moments when they get stuck. And every single level, I would expect to continue wanting to learn and improve and know more about trends and new tools and things like that that could be relevant to their project. So I hope that gives like a general overview of like how I view the landscape.
Yeah, that was very insightful, and I agree with that. You always have to keep learning. Doesn't matter at which level you are. Now comes the big question, and I think it's a two-part question. How do you get from the junior to actually a mid-level position? And I think there's two parts to this. One is how do you internally get ready for it? And the second part would be how do you actually make it happen? How do you confront your supervisors? Look, I have been at this position for this long and I think I'm ready because of this. How do you do that? Let's start with the first one. How do you get internally ready for something like that?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to come back to you on the second half because there's a word you used there that I think is very interesting. But the first half, so yeah, how do you get ready for this? How do you find yourself at that point? For me, I don't believe in timelines for going from junior to mid-level. Now, that said, I would be very surprised if someone went from junior to mid-level in 1 or 2 months. Like that would probably be not realistic. I myself, I think I got promoted about 9 months after being a junior. So I was, again, I'm someone who code comes to very naturally and it kind of just works for my brain. It's not for everyone. But that was considered very fast. And I would agree with that. I would say you wouldn't be expecting time-wise to be even looking at a promotion before at least, 6 months even would probably be too short. I would say 9 months would be the absolute minimum you would be expecting someone to be a junior. That said, as I said, I don't necessarily believe that time is the thing. For me, it's about comfort. So, and by that I mean, how comfortable are you with the code that you're working with? How comfortable are you with the programming language or languages that you are using? So obviously there are some basic things you can work on. If, for example, when I started my first junior position, I had to learn Java and I had never used Java before. So of course, part of me progressing to the mid-level was working on my Java skills, going out of my way to do some extra tutorials, to go to, for example, communities of practice inside my company with other Java developers and learn from them, both inside my team and outside my team, and to really be open to those ideas. I think the number one thing I see juniors doing wrong, and the attitudinal thing, is that they believe they have to be great already and they have to be perfect and they can't admit weakness. And so they have this thing where like, oh, if I want to be mid-level, everyone has to see how good I am, right? I can't show them that I don't know what I'm doing. This is faulty thinking, right? It's actually the other way around. The more honest you are and the more honest you become in what you can and can't do with the people around you, the more they can actually recognize what level you are at now, and the more they can help you at a level you understand. So in terms of leveling up your own abilities, the best thing you can do is to lean on your team. But your team can't help you if you give them the illusion that you're at a higher level than you are. If you pretend to understand Kubernetes perfectly, but you've never even worked with Docker, it can't help you if you're not honest about the level you're at. So it's on you to be open about the things you understand and don't understand. In team events, you should be talking, you should be offering your opinion, and you should be admitting when the conversation goes beyond your understanding. So I think it's very awkward when you're a junior, especially if you're the only junior on your team, and everyone starts talking about DevOps or pipelines or something along these lines that you're not familiar with yet. And it's very awkward and difficult to be that one person who's like, I'm sorry, what is CI/CD? Like, I don't actually know what that is. And unfortunately, that's the best way for you to learn, is to tell them that you don't know that, because then they can actually come to you, be it in that meeting or after that meeting, and say, okay, so you don't know about CI/CD. Let's spend like an hour and a half, like looking at what we're doing here and how it works. And then maybe we can give you like some nice simple ticket to do with this later so you can try it yourself, right? So it involves admitting that you don't know something and then actively taking advice, seeking out that extra learning, and then giving yourself the challenge to try new things and to try things that are outside your abilities. If you only ever do tickets that are inside your abilities, you're never going to grow.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the major thing for me. It's a mindset thing, but it's also about like how you learn, how you improve, how you work in a team. To jump from a junior to a mid-level requires a lot of learning, and that learning is best done through other people.
Yeah, totally agree. I also imagine like for mid-level, it's expected that if you do something wrong, you recognize it and you're like, oh, whoopsie, there's something wrong, and there's a problem, and I think I have a solution. Maybe I come up with a solution on my own or not, which I think is not a big issue, and you just talk to your team about it, like because I saw many people, or not so many people, I saw people just hiding up problems and trying to fix it instead of shining a light on it,
Exactly.
which may sound counterintuitive, but you should always, in my opinion, talk about that, because like, what are you going to do? They're not going to fire you because you made a mistake.
No, and I think it's a big mentality shift, especially for career changes or for people just out of university who are particularly young, because you have this impression like, oh, I can't screw this up, like I've got to be perfect, like they're gonna fire me if they see that I don't know what I'm doing. But actually it's the opposite. So I talk to a lot of team leads as part of my job, and the thing that they dislike the most in juniors is when they have no idea where this person stands because they don't communicate. So if a junior isn't saying like, I'm having trouble with this, they just disappear for like 3 or 4 days and nothing's happening and the ticket isn't being updated and the team lead's like, what's going on, right? But the junior's not going to anyone for help. The team lead is completely clueless. They can't help this person. They can't make progress in this sprint. You know, it's a real problem. Whereas actually, if that junior had just admitted after the first hour or two of struggling with this ticket, just gone to the team lead and said, hey, I'm a bit stuck. Team leads love that. They're like, oh, great, let's sort it out. And then they can kind of keep guiding you and they know exactly what's going on. The worst thing for a junior to do, in my opinion, is to, try to hide their problems. Yeah. And as you said, it's counterintuitive, but it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So let's say once you feel that you're ready, you put a lot of effort in, you made all the things that you said, you upskill your technical knowledge, you participate more in meetings, and you put your opinions out there. What would be the next step? Like, how do you go about convincing the others that you are ready?
Yeah. So you said earlier, I wanted to bring this up. You said, oh, how do you confront your team lead with the opinion that you're a mid-level now? And I had to just like laugh inside, because to me it shouldn't be confrontational at all. Ideally it's not a surprise to them, right? I would say once you've been a junior for a while and you're starting to feel like you're really improving, you should be having one-on-ones with your team lead. If you're not, you might not be at a great company, but ideally you're having one-on-one meetings with your team lead or with someone, or with your unit lead, or someone who's in charge of your career progress. Once you start getting this feeling like, oh, I really want to do this, you should be saying to them, hey, I'm really interested in moving to mid-level at some point in the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah, it could be less, whatever the timeline is for you. I think I'm getting to that point. I'm not there yet. I want to know how it works in the company. Like, what do I need to do to show you that I'm ready for this? And what are some concrete steps that you would like to see from me in order to make this happen? So this should be a collaborative process. It shouldn't be like one day you wake up and you like go to your team lead and you're like, I want to be a mid-level now. Like, they're just going to be like, what? You know, they're not ready for that conversation. So it's much better if you go to them early, a few months in advance of when you think you'll actually be ready, and you say, this is what I want, and this is what I want to work towards. Can we create a plan together for getting there? And team leads love this. Like, this is the kind of stuff that team leads love, because it gives them time, to come up to think about, okay, what do I like about Marc? What are his weaknesses? Like, what could he work on? What could make our team better? And then they can actually give you this very concrete feedback. Okay, Marc, I want to see you like talking a little bit more in meetings, especially during planning, to give your opinion on what you think this code, like how this code should be structured, for example. Or I want to see you get more involved in the community at our company. Like I want to see you join a COP and maybe give a presentation to our front-end COP about Vue, or whatever it is that your specialty is. You know, they can give you those concrete things to meet. And that way you can keep checking in with them. And if there is a set process at your company, you also then become aware of it. One of the first job I held, they only did promotions in September. Like that was the only time they did them.
Okay.
So I knew, okay, I have to prepare for my promotion hearing in September. And they had a very set way of doing that. And different companies work different ways. So you should definitely go in advance and ask in advance, how does this work? What do I need to prepare? And then work together with your team lead to get there.
Oh yeah, so it's also a little bit about letting go of ego, because if you said like you go there and you ask basically what can I improve in order to get there, so you have to be mature enough to not take it as, because what will come out of the other person's mouth is, okay, you could do this and this and this and this better, which you would be like, oh, so you could feel that you're not doing a good job, but actually like those are like just the things that someone would want you to get better at. And so I think that's also one part of the equation, right? Being mature enough to like take serious criticism.
Exactly. And to be honest, like that is also the mark of a mid to senior level engineer, is someone who can admit when they've done something wrong or when they've made a mistake. Like it's a really important part of the personality trait that you need to be a mid-level engineer, is to be someone who is open to criticism. So if this is a jump you want to make from junior to mid-level, you have to show, okay, I'm open to being wrong about things. I'm open to making mistakes, and I'm open to being told how to do things better. And if you can show that openness and that willingness, as you said, to let go of the ego of code or the ego of programming, then it's much, much easier, firstly, to improve, but secondly, to convince people that you're ready for a level up, for sure.
It's awesome. I think this will help many people like get a clear view of how they can get from one level to the other in an organized fashion. So let's talk a little bit about not coding. When you're not coding, what do you do? I know from, because I know you, that you are pregnant, so that you will be, first, congratulations. You are probably very focused on that. Can you tell us a little bit how is it being pregnant and being in a high position as you are, as in a job where you still have to do a lot of things? So you probably have like an elevated sort of stress because you need to balance so many things. You laugh in an agreeing way.
I wouldn't say I'm a very stressed out person in general. As you know, I'm a pretty cheerful person. But certainly I would say early in the pregnancy is worse for those who have been pregnant or know pregnant people. The first 3 months is kind of when you're not supposed to tell anyone you're pregnant because there's a higher miscarriage risk. That's also the time when morning sickness is at its strongest. So the exact time when you can't tell people you're pregnant is when you feel the most sick. So that's actually, for me, that was the hardest time for sure, because I was actually just starting in my job and I was having to go to a lot of conferences. I was traveling, I was doing public speaking. I was just getting to know this company and at the same time struggling with actually just, feeling okay during the day. And of course, on top of that, there's a bit of tiredness. So you have to make sure you sleep a lot. But in general, I wouldn't say like once I got past that stage, I wouldn't say it changes that much. It's really just like, I think it's just kind of funny in a way, like being on a conference stage at a tech event where like there already often aren't many women there at all, but then to also be like very visibly pregnant on a conference stage, I kind of just find it funny to like mess with people's expectations about what an engineer and what an engineering director looks like. So I find that kind of funny, but but I wouldn't necessarily say stressful. Yeah, and luckily I'm in Germany where pregnancy and maternity protections are really good. So I also get a really pleasant amount of time off from work when the baby is born. So yeah, hopefully I'll be taking 6 months of leave, and then my husband will take 6 months of leave, and that way,
Nice.
that way our baby will get a full year with his parents before starting the daycare journey. And that also gives like me time to recover and then be really excited to get back to work because I love my job. So.
Awesome. And what else do you do? Do you have some hobbies that helps you bring work-life balance?
I've got some guilty pleasures. I've got some not so guilty pleasures. So I'm a sci-fi nerd first and foremost. So I love sci-fi series. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, and we've got like this renaissance of Star Trek at the moment, where like there are so many new series out at the moment. So that's really great. My guiltiest pleasure is my husband and I both love the Bachelor and the Bachelorette series out of the United States. So that's definitely my guilty pleasure. And then on top of that, I actually play the game Settlers of Catan. So I actually play it competitively online, which I really love. And it doesn't there's no money or anything involved. Let's not get some weird expectations here, but I just do it for fun. And yeah, that's something I've done for a while now as well. So yeah, I would say those are the main things. But of course, with a 3-year-old, there's not a lot of extra time to have amazing hobbies. But yeah, I'm also enjoying getting back to the gym. It's been a while, and that's been something that's been very nice for me too, because I used to do a lot of gym stuff back in the day when I was studying music. So that's very nice as well.
Oh, awesome. So I think we came to the end of this. Thanks a lot, Anna, for your time. And also thank you everyone for listening and watching to this. And Anna, I will see you probably around on Twitter somewhere.
Yes, we are very Twitter adjacent. We'll see you there.
Exactly. And everyone else, see you in the next episode. All right. Bye.